lovely. Then Friday, look at this, 73, 79, 79 on Saturday, Sunday 74, slight chance of a sprinkle on Monday. Everybody have a great night tonight.
On World News Tonight this Wednesday, such a long day here in Colorado, especially for the parents who were not quite sure they had lost a child.
Our hearts are still so sad for those who don't know, but they feel certain that they've lost their children.
The intensity of the violence is so confusing. 15 people dead and more than 20 wounded. Who were these young men? Why did they resort to this?
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Reporting tonight from Littleton, Colorado.
Good evening. This community is really suffering tonight. It is also bewildered, and it is very much convinced now that if it can happen here, it can happen anywhere. So much has been changed by the shooting at Columbine High School over there, off limits behind the trees. So much innocence lost, as you can see in the messages and flowers put here at the edge of the high school campus. Columbine High, named after the state flower, is now in the annals of American gun violence. We can't get any closer tonight because it is still a crime scene, and the authorities don't want all this media tramping around where the two young, angry outcasts, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, might have left other bombs or booby traps. Police found 30 explosives.
We have such a complex crime scene. Our first order of business is to process the crime scene and deal with the victims and their families, which is a real struggle at this point.
The intensity of the violence is so confusing. 15 people dead and more than 20 wounded. Who were these young men? Why did they resort to this?
I've been a cop for 27 years. I've been a SWAT officer since 1980, and this was clearly the most devastating and traumatic scene that I've ever seen or been associated with. I hope never to see it again.
Yeah.
All across the region today, sorrow flows like water. Colorado citizens expressing themselves as best they can. In the state legislature, where they have now suspended debate on a law to permit concealed weapons, it was silence. All over the city, very often in churches, people were trying to give comfort to one another. It has been very hard for the director of school security for Jefferson County. Howard Cornell was a Marine. Trying to prevent this was on his shoulders.
My question is, how could we let this happen? We had an armed, uniformed law enforcement officer trained by the county and prepared for this assignment.
So all this soul searching the day after is basically just soul searching.
Yes, it's helpful, but I don't think anybody has the answer to this.
The schools were all closed today. Some kids talk of being afraid to go back, and so many parents spoke of fearing to let their children go.
I think as any parent in this community, I feel grateful that I can still hold my son, because there's many parents out there this morning that don't have the opportunity to hold their children anymore.
It is puzzling to some why it is taking so long to get all the bodies out of the school library, though they have begun to move them. The police have been cautious. One investigator tells us they're surprised at how sophisticated some of the explosive devices are. Some had elaborate timers. Authorities have now found bombs in several other vehicles and are investigating whether the killers had help. They are surprised that two men could carry as much explosive as they did. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, the killers, are much less of a mystery today. Their lifestyle is more apparent, their disappointments with life, and particularly their relationship with other students. All of it better understood today than yesterday. Here's ABC's Tom Foreman.
Police spent the day searching the boys' homes and questioning their parents, looking for more explosives and clues as to what triggered the rampage. Near the school, other members of the Trenchcoat Mafia, like Alex Marsh, were recalling the gunmen.
If they liked you, they were the sweetest guys in the world. And if you were on their bad side?
If they hated you, you better watch your back.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Marsh says long before the shootings, Harris and Klebold made it known they could get guns, and they frequently fought others, sometimes with clubs and knives. They spent hours playing violent video games like Doom. Investigators say notes left by the gunman directed people to this web page, believed to be created by Harris. It says he worked at a fireworks stand and includes the personal quotes, "Shut up and shoot it. Kill 'em all." Police, too, said today the boys had a record.
Property crime, auto trespass, theft, went through a diversion program, and the district attorney's office completed that program.
Friends suggest the boys may have faked their way through that rehab program 1 year ago. At heart, they say, the gunmen hated authority, minorities, student athletes, anyone who picked on them, according to former member Tad Bowles.
Most of the group were considered outcasts to a point, because we all hung out together, dressed the same way, and everybody pretty much avoided us.
Late today, the Harris family released a statement saying, "We want to express our heartfelt sympathies to the families of all the victims and to all the community for this senseless tragedy." The gunman's best friends echoed the words.
My friends were very good people that made very bad choices.
Bad choices this community is now struggling to understand. Peter?
Tom Foreman. It is no surprise that this became a big international story and in the other nations' headlines. Not for the first time, America is seen as a country which cannot control violence committed with guns. In Japan today, the headline was, "How sick is the gun society?" Here in the U.S. West, where guns are not thought of in such a dismissive way, there is enormous concern about gun violence, of course, but today, here, this is about individual lives. Here's ABC's Judy Muller.
To the rest of the world, they are victims. But to their friends and families, they are much, much more. Rachel Scott, a junior who was active in drama and adored by her friends.
She was the kind of person that, like, if you even hurt, like, a fly or something in front of her, she would get so upset.
And Lauren Townsend, a popular junior. And John Tomlin, described by a neighbor as an all-American kid.
My son and husband had just helped him with a little project on his car the night before and had spoken with him. And in fact, they had run into Lauren at the restaurant the very night before, too. So this is just, it's way too close to home.
Dave Sanders, a school teacher for 22 years, a basketball coach. He leaves a wife and 4 children, 3 of them adopted.
If any students of his ever had any problems, he'd always take the extra time or extra effort to try to, to touch their lives and try to help them out with whatever he could.
And Isaiah Scholes, gunned down, perhaps, because he was black.
They shot him, I don't know how many times it was, but they shot him, and then they go, "Is that black guy dead over there yet?"
Isaiah wanted to be a comedian.
Everything that he needed, he had it, He studied. Everything that Isaiah needed, Isaiah had it. Yeah.
His father resisted the truth as long as he could.
Yesterday, really, I was in denial all day yesterday. I knew it yesterday that he wasn't going to come back.
To the rest of the world, victims. To those who knew them, much, much more.
Our hearts are still so sad for those who don't know, but they feel certain that they've lost their children.
By this evening, that certainty was no longer a feeling. All the families had been notified. Peter?
Judy Muller. On a day like this, any community must surely appreciate talk radio. From the moment the disaster struck through the night, if the talk show host was a good facilitator, it was an effective way for people to communicate their pain, their anxiety, their anger, and their disappointment. Here on the edge of the Rocky Mountains, where nature so violently changed the landscape, these 2 teenage boys have changed the whole community. Here's ABC's Aaron Brown.
When the sun came up on this first morning after, so much had changed. Every day, kids gather before school at the Starbucks, but never before to grieve.
Everybody's going to handle it differently.
Zach Noyce and Heather Poole are handling a lot. Each has a friend unaccounted for.
I pray that he's lost in shuffle. I think that's all we have right now is hope.
Heather has even lost that.
I remember going to movies with him, I just remember all the fun things that we ever did, and it's just like we can't do them anymore.
At Ebert School in Denver, the principal stood outside and hugged her students a little harder.
Go line up. We let you in a little bit early today.
A parent held her child's hand a little tighter, the wave goodbye a little scarier.
Is it bringing him to school today different?
Yes, it is.
How is it different?
Because I feel for those parents. I just think that could have been my son or my daughter.
Parents are scared today, and so are children who understand too well the implications of the tragedy 15 miles away.
What are you scared of, Cameron?
That the same thing might happen in our school.
Today was spent reminding the youngest kids that they are safe despite it all.
And today we are told it's not even the worst day. People are still numb. Young children may start to develop nightmares. Older kids grow angry at all they've lost.
But today, in the numbness of it all, talking was the best medicine. To the cop on the beat.
It's just an absolute tragedy.
On the radio programs.
Have you dealt with death a lot in your short lifespan?
To the grief counselors.
People need to talk. People who've been through something like this really need to talk about it.
Today, so much is different. A siren that might have gone unheard is now frightening. The town statue more poignant. And the flags that often go unseen say everything there is to say today. Peter.
Aaron Brown also here in Littleton. When we come back, 5 hours of terror. What happened on the inside?
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by AccuView.
Announcing a new way to see, near and far, the way nature intended. The creator of AccuView, the most prescribed contact lens, is introducing the revolutionary AccuView bifocal contact lens. The first with pupil-intelligent design, near and far. Get out of wearing glasses and get into life, both near and far. New AccuView bifocal. It's how you see things. Visit your eye care professional or call us for more information.
Out here, I'm in command. So am I supposed to say, slow down, guys, I'm constipated? I don't think so. You try to eat right. Sometimes you can't. Harsh chemical laxatives, they can kick in whenever and wherever. Not an option. So I rely on doctor-recommended Metamucil. It's got 100% natural fiber. Works with my body, gently, which is important to a sensitive guy like myself.
Metamucil, the doctor's natural choice for regularity.
Start looking forward to the drive home. Stop commuting. Start driving. Introducing Alero. Alero by Oldsmobile. Start something.
You know, azaleas, rhododendrons, and evergreens are acid-loving plants. And there's one plant food you should use for really spectacular results. Miracid.
We look forward to spring every year just so we can see these colors. I use Miracid because it really strengthens these azaleas.
Miracid gives acid-loving plants just what they need to thrive.
The colors here are so brilliant and so alive.
They're bright and they just like pop out at you whenever you see them.
Acid-loving plants need Miracid.
Out here on the edge of the high school campus yesterday, it was chaos. The events unfolded, as you probably know, over several hours. We and the rest of the country could only see what was going on outside. Today, with the benefit of time, ABC's Bob Jameson pieces together what happened inside.
11:10 a.m., fifth period at Columbine High. The first shift of lunch has just begun. Pizza. 11:30, outside the sprawling two-story building, there are shots. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold go inside through the back entrance. They begin spraying bullets in a hallway full of students.
Then you hear the shot go off, and a teacher ran by with another teacher shot in the arm. So we started putting all the tables up.
11:32, the two enter the crowded cafeteria and begin shooting. It's a good day to die, one yells. Get down, shouts the custodian. There are gunshots and screams.
I've never seen so many dead people in my life, and some of my friends did.
11:34, Harris and Klebold go up the stairway, shooting and setting off their homemade bomb. 11:35, now on the second floor, they hit the library, smoke and scream. A girl huddles under a table. She is shot in the head.
People were getting shot all around me. There was a guy at a table right next to us, next to me and her, and they just shot him, and then walked away, and then he was just sitting there in a pool of blood.
An alarm sounds. Students begin fleeing. The first police arrive. 11:40. Everyone around one young woman in the library is shot. Splattered with blood, she pleads for 10 minutes for her life. She is not harmed. 12:15. Police are now in the school, and an officer exchanges gunfire with the two boys. Ambulances arrive. The first wounded to escape are treated.
She was on the ground. She had blood all over her.
About 60 students barricade themselves in the choir room, hiding under robes. Kimmy Vest has a cell phone. She makes a whispered call to her mother.
They couldn't talk long because they were worried. They could still hear bombs going off and shotguns and the two guys running up and down the halls yelling.
1 o'clock. SWAT teams begin their room-by-room search and the evacuation. 2:38. A wounded student, Rich Foss, puts a sign in a shattered library window. "Help, I'm bleeding to death." He is rescued.
I got him.
4:16 p.m. The shooting has ended.
I'm glad you're okay.
Bob Jameson, ABC News.
So many questions. Tonight we take a closer look at perhaps the most difficult. Why didn't someone see it coming? The father of one student asked today, wasn't it obvious? Maybe not. Here's ABC's Deborah Amos.
It always seems clear after the violence. Warning signs that these were the ones who would hurt others.
Kids just don't wake up one day and decide that they're going to kill themselves or kill others.
The signs can show up years before.
Playing with fire, cruelty to animals, also hitting kids harder than the other kids hit, possibly stealing.
The U.S. Department of Education issued this report last August with a list of early warnings. Social withdrawal, feelings of being picked on and persecuted, excessive feelings of rejection, being a victim of violence, low interest in school. Spotting those signs can be at least as important as setting up security cameras and metal detectors. In Colorado, there was an armed guard in the school, but today, the district attorney said there was still a lot to be learned about spotting violent kids. Across the country, teachers and principals are not trained to recognize the warning signs that should be familiar by now. Even when they are trained, with school budgets stretched, counseling is inadequate or not available.
I think it's time the nation recognized that psychiatric illness in children and teenagers is as real as physical illness.
Some school systems are beginning to do something, putting in place innovative programs that bring counselors to students, that screen kids for problems right inside the classroom, that change the odds on violence. But there's still a long way to go. Deborah Amos, ABC News, New York.
As you can imagine, this will be the subject for a full hour on 2020. Later this evening, when we come back, the other news, the new weapon in the war against the Serbs.
Sis, I snooped in your medicine cabinet.
So?
You switched to X-Lax.
Yeah, Correctol works with something artificial. X-Lax works with natural senna.
Very effectively, too.
You tried it.
What a find.
What a snoop.
Good morning, guaranteed.
Some people call it retirement planning. I think of this as future construction. Year by year, block by block, until... It's our dream house. Beautiful. But I was hoping we could afford to travel. This plan can help make it happen. We can even make sure you've got worry-free income for life.
AXA, dynamic vision, equitable, a trusted resource. Call us. Equitable is a member of the global AXA group.
Why do I rent from Enterprise? Very simple. No stress. They arrange to pick me up free, so I don't have to ask anyone for a ride. See? No stress.
Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
No, this isn't a jeans commercial. It's about constipation. You're bloated, not yourself. Your size 10s feel like
tattoos.
FiberCon has natural fiber action to relieve bloating constipation.
I'm myself again.
FiberCon. Be regular. Be yourself.
It's spring break. Hot tubs everywhere will be overflowing. Make sure your deck can take the heat with Thompson's Wood Protector. For rain, sun, mildew, it's the most powerful Thompson's yet. Thompson's Wood Protector. It never takes a day off.
Boogie woogie, rumbling round, creamy, dreamy, rumbling round. It's got yogurt blended right in with the creamy taste of butter. You'll try again.
The goodness of yogurt, the creamy taste of butter with half the fat and calories. Must be Rumbling Brown.
Quick Dissolve Maalox contains calcium.
Get more calcium than regular Tums with new Maalox Quick Dissolve Chewable Antacid.
The calcium is an added plus, definitely.
And it dissolves faster than Tums.
I can't improve on that.
Quick Dissolve your heartburn away and get more calcium.
Now to the war in Yugoslavia. A lot of talk about ground troops today. The U.S. said for the first time it is willing to discuss planning for ground troops in the Balkans if NATO's military leaders believe the air campaign may not get the job done. However, a senior U.S. official does tell us that NATO is not even close to consensus on actually deploying the troops, and any deployment would, as we've reported before, take months. After a long wait, those Apache helicopters did arrive in the Albanian capital, Tirana. Many military officials believe they should have been there much earlier. In Albania tonight, here's ABC's Dean Reynolds.
One of the most lethal battlefield weapons in the U.S. Army arsenal flew into the airport here before dusk.
The risks to the Serbian forces, I would say, are great. They've been successful so far against the women and children that are unarmed. I think the table's about to turn when we enter the conflict.
The $16 million Apache, which can fly day or night in all kinds of weather, has been awaited here for almost 3 weeks. A combination of factors delayed its arrival. It was not even included in the original war plan. The weather here has hampered the construction of an acceptable landing zone. The U.S. and its NATO allies were squeamish about putting helicopters and their crews at risk, and concerned that the Apache would be seen as the vanguard of an Allied invasion force. But today, the Army was adamant that the Apache is here to support the NATO air campaign, period.
We have no plans for ground forces in Kosovo.
Military commanders here won't say exactly when the Apaches will see combat. The first ones to know that, they say, will be the Serbs. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Tirana, Albania.
NATO got more personal with Mr. Milosevic today. The Serb leader, the target list today included one of the tallest buildings in Belgrade. This is where President Milosevic's political party had its headquarters. His wife had an office there, and his daughter owned a television station in the building. And just one other note, the Clinton administration has decided to allow 20,000 refugees from Macedonia to come to the United States. Refugees with relatives already living here will be given first priority. Originally, the administration had planned to send the refugees to a U.S. base in Guantanamo in Cuba. Back in just a moment.
Papa John's is only 14 years old.
But we've already been ranked higher in customer satisfaction than our 3 largest competitors. 3 years in a row.
Help us celebrate our big win.
Our success and our anniversary.
Get 2 large pizzas with 2 toppings for just $12. 2 large, 2 toppings, just $12.
Taste our pride. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's.
And our most important ingredient, better people.
You got that right.
Lively conversation every morning. Wrestling Sunday afternoons. Flower arranging weekends. Bike riding whenever. Boost daily. With essential vitamins and minerals, Boost is just one of those special things you do to take care of yourself. In bars and drinks, Boost, a nutritional part of this complete life.
Here's a new idea. A pain reliever from Aleve that goes to work fast and lasts all day. Introducing new Aleve gel caps. Like most gel caps, they go to work fast, but Aleve gel caps do more than work fast. They have the strength to work all day long with just 2 pills. It would take 8 Tylenol to do that. Look, if your pain reliever starts fast but won't last, get one that does it all. New Aleve gel caps, 2 pills, all-day relief. Works for me.
can build you a PC that lets you be who you want to be. Like a Gateway Essential PC with an Intel Celeron processor for as low as $28 a month. And you can trade it in toward the purchase of a new one in 2 years. Call 1-800-GATEWAY.
But I wasn't gone long.
Your husband was right here?
I went to check the ticket.
Bingo.
What?
Have you checked the Chili Dog Express?
Oh, no. Hot dogs give Jack indigestion and heartburn.
Not this time.
What is it?
Looks like the remains of the minty fresh Pepsid AC chewable.
Chewable?
Now the first chewable that stops heartburn before it starts. Great tasting Pepsid AC chewables.
Jack?
Start living heartburn-free with new Pepsid AC chewables.
So, Murray, did you hear?
Found Nick across the way?
Yeah, got sprayed.
Did he just get sprayed?
Yeah, but didn't get the roots. Whatever got him this time was different.
I didn't think anything could take old Nick.
Hey, next time, it could be us.
Roundup, no root, no weed, no problem.
Sundown Herbals presents its remarkable Twist and Learn label. It works like an herbal information center that helps you learn about herbs simply by turning the label. Sundown's new Twist and Learn label, where to turn for help.
Tonight on 2020, the Colorado school shooting. Untold stories of what happened, the shooters, the students. What makes a child do this? Live from Littleton, 2020 tonight at 10, 9 Central.
Coming up next on Channel 2 News, former student body president accused of an Oregon crime spree cops a plea, and local students dispel the risks of violence in their hallways. Hear why one teen counselor says they're wrong. I'm Steve Dunn. News of the Northwest is next.
Some final thoughts from here in Littleton. These are the best of times in America. As you drive around this community in the shadow of the Rockies, you realize why so many people find this a great place to live in these good times. There's lots of prosperity here in the open, uncomplicated spaces. And the number of churches here suggests that many people enjoy a fuller life, not merely a comfortable one. This was a good high school, and yet it happened here. Today, we have only a brief glimpse into people's lives, but several people tried to explain it to us. There was Susan, who was very convinced that parents needed to be held responsible.
You know, the only conclusion is if my son's making pipe bombs in my garage, I'm going to know it. You know, and I think there's a lot of parents that just turn their head and look the other way.
And Peggy, who thought kids were too isolated from one another.
I think they're too busy being entertained with television, computer games, and they lose track of what it is to feel.
Kathy and Chang are Korean Americans. What they heard in this was racism.
When you hear the kids talking yesterday about, oh, they're going after black kids and Mexicans and, you know, the jocks and things like that, it's like, well, you still get the groupings.
Well, I think sometimes you get more scared if you're a minority, you know, if they're targeting you, especially when they say it's Nazism and all that.
And they had all seen it happen elsewhere.
This shows me it can happen everywhere. It's scary for our future.
Many people here have been frightened by the implications of this attack, most especially by the notion that they never thought it possible. That is our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night from Littleton, Colorado.
This has been a presentation of ABC News.